Welcome back. We hope you've enjoyed the previous masterclass videos brought to you by Dave Liu and Tim Day. My name is Jon Christian, and today I'll be speaking to you about implementing the MVP within digital media supply chain. So what do I mean when I say MVP? Well, this is not the most valuable player, but you'll be one if you get this right. MVP stands for minimum viable product and is defined as a development technique to introduce new product to the market or consumer base with basic features, but enough to get the attention of the consumers. The final product is released to the market only after getting sufficient feedback from the product's initial user base. Today, I will be going over the following topics: how to define and build a core foundation MVP that you can build upon leveraging incremental iterative phases, best practices in implementing an MVP for digital media supply chain, and key lessons learned from the decades of implementing complex enterprise-wide solutions in this space. We will first start with the foundation. Let's first do a recap on why defining an MVP is not as easy as it sounds. First, we're dealing with a complex technology stack that potentially integrates multiple enterprise-class systems. Dave Liu walked you through on-premise digital media supply chain reference architecture, taking you through network, transport, storage, database, compute, identity management, messaging, and application program interface. On top of that foundation, there are multiple applications in the stack, from asset management to digital publishing, metadata, automated content processing and protection services, data and analytics, and distribution services. Each of these applications, in theory, have their own MVP, so we are seeing why this is not a small task. The next area of complexity is the size and diversity of the user base. For large enterprises, the solution could have 20 to 30 unique business units with unique requirements and definitions of success. In addition to this, many organizations also open up access to the platform to external partners and customers, leveraging self-service workflows. As a note, we have seen these companies fare much better as we navigate through the new work-from-home workplace. Finally, enterprises have different degrees of maturity across different components in the stack. Some companies are starting from nothing, while other companies have been doing this for 15 plus years and are on their third or fourth generation of a digital media supply chain platform. With these multiple complexities, let's start with some basic goals in defining the MVP before we move on to best practices. Success in implementing a desired MVP is to focus not only on the technology implementation, but also the process and organization components. I've had many speaking engagements where I've stated that technology is less than half the battle. If you implement a perfect technical solution, but the processes have not been adapted to support it, and the users have not been brought on board to understand the advantages of it, you're in trouble. Users will simply not use the solution. The first step is to prioritize the business units in your roadmap. You want to avoid big bang and releasing all functions to all business units. Focus on the 2 to 3 business units that can give you 60 to 70% of the desired functionality for the enterprise. I know this is easier said than done, but if you have watched the previous videos, hopefully you have a prioritized set of requirements across the enterprise to draw from to help you make this selection. Keep in mind that revenue is typically king. Those business units that make the most revenue are typically prioritized. Hopefully, the required functionality is also applicable to the remainder of the enterprise. Next, focus on the technical components of the application stack that are absolutely critical for this iteration. In many cases, we see a combination of asset management, metadata, automated content processing, distribution, and identity management. This sounds like a lot, but these components have been integrated for years, and some vendors can do a majority of the functions. Next, push to start out of the box with each of the components to reduce timeline and then bring in the critical integration. We were getting to a pretty exciting place with technology and the capabilities that vendors have. Many companies are now going with SaaS-based offerings, which curbs the ability to significantly customize solutions. It also comes down to strong APIs and web services to enable key integrations to meet the desired functionality. Finally, IT and the business must partner on this journey. As stated before, having time to re-engineer the process to match the new technology and providing thorough change management is key. At this point, you should have an iterative roadmap on when business units and technologies are going to be deployed. You should also have a prioritized set of requirements by business unit. And finally, all of your technology solutions should have been selected by this point, or at least those technologies in the first few releases. Now it's time to look both inside and outside of the system, with the inside focusing on technology components and the outside focusing on the organization and change management. On the technology path, make it simple yet secure. UX is everything. A well-designed user experience can significantly reduce, or in some cases eliminate, training. Keep in mind that one size does not fit all when dealing with user interfaces across business units. If you recall from our digital media supply chain reference architecture, there may very well be multiple UIs and points of entry into the digital media supply chain platform based on the capabilities and functions critical to the user. With one of our clients, they built a custom portal on top of their digital media supply chain framework, tapping into the web services and APIs across the different applications in the stack. In doing this, they did key persona mapping and analyzed multiple systems for inspiration. The interesting thing here is they didn't just look at DAM solutions for inspiration, but also took a hard look at social media platforms and e-commerce sites that we leverage every day at home. This approach was a huge success, with the users getting similar user experience at work as they do when they go home, resulting in usage going up nearly 400% for this solution. On the point of security, it is key that the different business units coming onto the system feel that they can protect their content and data. First, ensure that the system is optimized for being able to share content with downstream business units in an easy fashion. However, also have the mechanism in place for them to be able to lock down the content and not have it be released outside their user group. A good amount of focus and attention should be applied here as different vendors handle security in different ways. It is also critical that you implement identity management, especially in environments where users will be accessing multiple systems. This allows for a seamless transition to the user as they are accessing data from multiple touchpoints. Penetration testing is also a must when deploying systems like this to make sure they are hardened against breach. Next, keep the metadata clean and avoid metadata madness. I'm sure you are tired of hearing metadata, metadata, metadata. However, it is one of the most important aspects of these solutions to make them usable. If you can't search properly, then you will never get to the level of automation desired. A few points on this. If there is a system that is the source for a given piece of data, integrate with it. Do not create yet another repository housing this data. Key examples that we come across often are the integration of title master systems for media and entertainment companies and the integration of product information management systems for consumer good companies. Next, do your best to reduce the amount of human entry metadata fields, and for those fields, make sure they have controlled vocabulary. You also want to make sure that you have a metadata model that can support the enterprise, but has the flexibility to be useful for a given business unit. All business units will have unique needs, and it is important that you can support this on top of the enterprise metadata model. Finally, make sure the metadata doesn't get lost as assets go from one system to another. It is critical that metadata is captured along its way. It is now becoming even more critical that asset performance can be tracked when assets are released into the wild. Finally, understand what is truly must-have versus nice-to-have. It is critical to reduce the feature backlog in the initial release as much as possible and focus on what is truly needed to meet your success criteria. Again, this is much easier said than done. Users may be accustomed to doing things in a particular way in their previous system and therefore call all of these features must-haves. This simply may not be the case when looking at the overarching goals of the system. However, in order to convince the users, there needs to be trust that you will have their back. They need to see the value in the approach and understand when doing iterative deployments that they will continue to get new features with each release. This was not the case in the old world of waterfall. Now on to organization and process. First, leverage an agile process. Many companies today are leveraging an agile development process. We here at On-Prem also do the same, but I will state that there is time and a place for both models depending on what you are implementing and the technology teams that are involved. The key here is that the process should be iterative, where you have a repeatable cadence to demonstrate the solution to the end users and collect their feedback. This enables you to make tweaks along the way to ensure the user acceptance. These projects are typically long and complex, where requirements and their priorities can change rapidly. Following an agile process will provide you the flexibility to pivot from sprint to sprint to deal with the changing priorities. It's still important to not miss the forest from the trees. You still want to be looking at the project from a roadmap perspective to make sure that you are staying within timeline and budget. Next, engage your users early and often. If the first time the users see the system is in user acceptance testing, you're in trouble. Make sure that users have the opportunity to elaborate on requirements and needs. Provide demonstrations of the solution, often showing them the progress that has been made based on their input. Openly share the roadmap of the system, which will help them understand why you may be pushing back on certain features in the current release because they are planned for future releases in the roadmap. Again, they may be thinking they only have one shot to get the requirements in. Next, add some personality to the mix. Making it fun can go a long way. We've seen many companies use system naming contests to get the users involved. The naming of the platform and the styling of the user experience should tie into your company's brand style guides and themes. Finally, build your operational support team prior to the project kickoff and bring them in early. Understanding the structure of your operational support team and how they will interact with the different business units prior to the start of the project will give you a leg up and allow them to create relationships throughout the project. A well-supported system doesn't just rely on great project managers, developers, and DevOps engineers. Now, don't get me wrong, they are essential. However, it is also critical that you have support and change agents that truly know the business and can support them. Think of these as Uber librarians. They are not just focused on maintaining the metadata, but deeply understand the business unit's use cases and security models. They make the platform run and move forward for all the steps that are not automated or have the ability to be automated. They act as key change agents on needed functions and can work directly with the product team to have them implemented. You will also want to establish a user committee. Set up recurring user committee meetings, either monthly or quarterly, to bring in key stakeholders from each of the business units that are already on the system or will be onboarded in the future based on your roadmap. These meetings will be very valuable in helping to prioritize backlog items and help you iterate through the different releases. Now, some key lessons learned. Force collaboration with the business and technology team, as building things together makes it more meaningful. It is critical for the technology team to understand why certain features are so important to the business. Likewise, it is also very important for the business to understand the constraints of the technology team. Again, these discussions can be very difficult, and one of the easiest ways to work through them is by having a good relationship between business and technology that is built on the foundation of trust. Finally, be transparent. Be proactive around communications from requirements through development and rollout. Let them understand the bigger picture and involve them in the project risks so that they are not blindsided. Many of these discussions do require having folks that have strong communication skills and empathy. Again, this is key to building trust. Well, that's it for now. Be on the lookout for our upcoming episodes in our Digital Media Supply Chain Masterclass series. Thanks for watching.